Greetings, and welcome to you all. Thank you all for joining us this evening for this rather monumental event and discussion that we're going to be having. I am your host, Rob Mccray, and I am truly honored to be before you this evening. So, today, what we're going to be doing, we're going to be having a discussion about some of the things that are being going on within our country for many years now, but it has come to what we might say a boiling point or a place in where we're going to see some change really start to take place. So that is why we have the title of Are We Witnessing History in this year of 2020, or is this just something that another phase that we're going through? So we're going to have our guests come out and we're going to have an open discussion, and we hope that we can all interact with one another and just be educated on some of the simple facts that went on in yesteryear. We're talking about the times of 1967 and 1968 when the riots went on, when Dr. King, one of our most famous leaders, was assassinated, along with the brother Malcolm X. He was assassinated a couple years before that. So we're going to have our guests come on and we're going to speak about these topics and many other things. So we just want to, enlighten you to what happened in yesteryear, because history has a potential in repeating itself. So once we hear from our guests, our panelists that are going to be on board, they're going to enlighten us as to what's going on now as compared to what went on back then. And then we can further talk about what are we going to be doing going forward. So without further ado, let's bring out our guest for this evening. And we're going to introduce them all to you. Okay, so on the top right of your screen, we have Mr. Yusuf Muhammad. If you can give us a wave to us. Mr. Yusuf, are you hearing me?
Yes, what did you say?
Yeah, just give us a wave. Let us know who you are.
Oh, Yusuf Muhammad.
Okay, thank you, brother. And right below him is Mr. Ralph Steele, Coach Steele. Mr. Steele,
Hello.
if you want. All right, thank you.
All right.
Thank you. And on the left of him is Mr. Craig Garner. Mr. Garner, if you will. Yes, sir. Good to have you all, gentlemen. Glad to have you. Thank you for joining us this evening. Yes, so we're going to have a rather lively discussion, and I hope it's going to be very enlightening for our listening audience. So if you will, just tell us a little bit about yourselves and what you're currently doing as of this time. Are you retired, still working, or what's the case? Mr. Garner, we'll start with you.
Good evening. Before I get started, I wanted to pay homage to our ancestors who paved the way for us to be here today, and especially in view of Brother John Lewis, who will be going home and be buried tomorrow. I feel it is always necessary to acknowledge that we're standing on the shoulders of some tremendous individuals. As for myself, I'm retired, but I am an author, poet laureate for Irvington. I graduated from Westside High School, graduated from King College and Essex County College. I'm a Democratic district leader for the last 30 years. And I'm also a veteran from Air Force. I was in the Air Force back in the 70s. And I'm a student of history, member of the First World Alliance in Harlem, where I feel I learned my true history. And that's about it. That's a quick little speech.
Excellent. All right, so Mr. Steele, if you will, tell us a little bit about your current situation and what you have done.
Okay, I also would like to thank Mr. Mccray for having us on today. because this
My
is a
pleasure.
very important subject, and we're honored to be on here. I'm blessed to still be here, and I'm honored to be on your program.
Thank you, sir.
I was educated in the Newark school system. Went to Rutgers Newark. I currently am retired. I worked two jobs. I was a tool and die foreman for over 20 years, and I worked for the Irvington Board of Education in the maintenance department for over 20 years. And that brings me here to today. I'm happily retired. I'm also a district leader in our district in Irvington.
Excellent, excellent. All right, so Mr. Muhammad, that brings us over to you, so if you
Yes,
will.
I'm Yusuf Muhammad, and I just want to say that I came from the Nation Islam in 1959, and I'm blessed to still be here. I'm 79 years old.
Mhm.
I have 18 children, 14 boys, 4 girls, 35 grandchildren, and 7 great grandchildren. And
Somebody
I'm
been busy.
and I'm thankful to be alive.
Right.
And I'm thank you, Mr. Gregg, for inviting me on to be here with the rest of the speakers. Thank you very much, and let's have a blessed day.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Awesome, brother. Good to hear that. So, yes, you've been a very busy man in your time and days, huh? All right. So, folks, all right, before we get into it, I need to make a correction about some of the things that I said in the original promo video relating to this particular discussion that we're having. So, initially, my thought was always that the riots that took place in Newark, New Jersey, that's where most of these gentlemen grew up. Uh, I was always under the impression that those riots occurred in 1968 after Dr. King was assassinated. But as Mr. Steele pointed out to me, no, that is not the case. The riots took place the year before, 1967. So when I went back and did my research on it, it says yes. So the riots happened in July of 1967 between the 12th and the 17th. So, Mr. Steele, I thank you for correcting me on that, because that was something that, for some reason, I always had embedded in my head that the riots took place after Dr. King's assassination, but that is not the case. So, and speaking on that, Mr. Steele, if you would, tell us about why those riots took place in the first place in 1967.
Well, from my perspective, I was a sophomore in high school when those events happened, and it just seemed like the communities were being run by white policemen. It was white Italians were in control of everything at the time, and the people just were suffering, and they had suffered long enough. And the one incident that happened with the cab driver, Craig, I don't know if you remember the cab driver and the North policeman that started the whole riot situation,
Right.
and it just escalated into just people just were fed up. They just had enough,
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I was a sophomore in high school, and I was working in the Central Ward where it started. And when I went to my job the next day after the riot started on a Friday. When I
Okay.
went to my job that next Saturday to get paid, the building was gone. It was tore down. You couldn't even tell it was a store there. So it affected me because it affected my pocket first of all.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I lost a week's pay.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So then the riots just kind of spread out from there.
It started in the Central Ward by the police precinct, and it just escalated. It went in every night. It would stop in the daytime.
Right.
It was peaceful in the daytime, but every night people would gather at different spots, and it spread probably to the majority of North.
Yeah.
It didn't. I didn't notice it too much in the North Ward, but it was through the Central and the South Wards.
Okay. Okay.
Let me, can I jump in here?
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Let me just say, while we're calling it the riots, Brother Larry Hammer Pop would call it a rebellion.
Mhm.
Uh,
Right.
he felt it was a rebellion against being discriminated against and held down and held back, and people just got fed up. And I think when you say riots, you need to talk about the white riots, like the riots in Oklahoma City, where they burnt down the black business, a successful black city in Oklahoma in 1921, and Black Wall Street. Now that's a riot where they just came out and made up something that this lady had been raped or something on the elevator, and then they decided to come out and shoot and kill and burn down everything. And those types of riots, those kind of riots, they might have been rebelling that against black people being successful, but those types of riots happen all over the country, in Detroit, Texas, Louisiana, especially after the immaculate emancipation, where we were supposed to be free from slavery. The white people got so mad and angry that they just start, quote, rioting in cities where they would just come run through your town, shoot, kill, and hang, and lynch people for no reason other than they was black. Now, if you want to attribute that to riots, I would call that riot. What we did in terms of what happened in Newark, in terms of breaking into stores and just running amok in the city, burning stuff down, I don't know that anyone was really killed. No white people were killed. I know about 16 people were killed, but that term riot just bothers me when they say black people, they call it a riot. But no one talks about the riots that white people did. Those were the most devastating riots that we're still suffering from today.
All right, so what term would you prefer?
Like Larry Brother Ham said, rebellion.
Okay. All right, we'll go with that. The rebellion. All right. So now this question is, so where were you guys when you got the word that Dr. King was assassinated?
Yeah.
Well, can I comment on the riot, please?
Sure.
Okay, I want to say that in 1921 in Oklahoma, that wasn't a riot. That was a war.
Mm-hmm.
We had as black people had a community, not a neighborhood. There's a difference between a neighborhood and a community. A community is where you own stores, you own your business, and you run your community. We had that in 1920 in Oklahoma. And the dollar was circulating not one time, not two times, not 5 times, but 8 times was circulating among us in Oklahoma. We was very successful in Oklahoma. We grew spiritually and we was developing. And what happened, they got jealous of our success. Not only did they destroy the community, they flew planes in there to bomb that community. Yes, so that was no riot. It was a war against us. Okay. What I want to say, we have to be very careful what's happened here in this day and time. Don't let history repeat itself. Okay. Now you mentioned Martin Luther King.
Yes.
Okay. Now I mentioned to you, Mr. Cray. Can anyone tell me what year did Martin Luther King die? What month? And how old was Martin Luther King when he died?
He was about 35.
Yeah. No.
39.
No, I told you, Mr. Cray. I didn't want you to answer. I already told you. See, you already told me. I was trying to find out for the rest of them. But the point I'm bringing out to was, they killed Martin Luther King when he was 39 years old.
Yeah, 39.
Yeah. Okay. And most people, I asked Mr. Craig when I first met him, how old was Martin Luther King when he was killed? He told me 54. Okay. But now he said 39 because I already told him 39. Okay. The point I want to bring out is, Martin Luther King was killed when he was 39, and they killed him 1968, April the 4th.
April 4th.
What happened? Do anyone know what happened a day before that?
It was a strike. It was a garbage workers strike. He had went down there because the garbage men were having a strike for not being paid properly and not getting their proper respect. So he went down there to support that event. I am a man march.
Okay, well, that's one thing. But in 1968, April the 3rd, they came out with the first movie. It's called the Planets of the Apes. Do y'all remember that?
Yes.
Yeah.
The Planets of the Apes. And Planets of the Apes, they call us apes. Okay, and that's when the first movie came out. The Planets of the Apes, April 1968, April the 3rd, and the next day they killed Martin Luther King. Is that right? Now let's look at the movie King Kong. Where did they kill King Kong at?
At
New
the
York.
Empire State Building.
New
Where?
York.
In New York, at the Empire State Building.
Exactly. And who was up there with King Kong?
The white lady.
Ah,
Right.
what did this all represent? Okay, the name of the movie was what?
King Kong.
Take Kong off. What do you have?
King.
Ah, they had already planned to kill Martin Luther King. All right. Martin Luther King's father was a beautiful speaker. His grandfather was a beautiful speaker. They had been following King family for 80 years. And what the Empire State Building at that time was the tallest building in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And the message they were sending out, the message was subliminally it represent the mountain. It represent the mountain. The Empire State Building represent the mountain. And what did Martin Luther King say before he died? I've been to the what?
Mountaintop.
Mountaintop. And what the mountaintop represent? It represents spirituality. And the message they was telling their people that every time this black man come up to the top, you take him down.
Okay.
And this is what they've been doing to our community. We've been taken down. Where's Bill Cosby at now? Where's Michael Jackson at now? I mean, we go on and on. Everybody went to the top, you took them down. Thank you.
All right. So yeah, getting back to the last question. So where were you guys at when Dr. King was assassinated?
You want to go, Ralph?
I remember it was, I was just out of school. I was home. I went to my girlfriend's house. I was over there thinking that I would have the house to myself because nobody was in there. And me and her was about to talk. And
You're about to talk.
I saw in the news that Martin Luther King was shot and killed. And the house just filled up instantly once the news spread around. Everybody was back in the house and everybody was sitting on the TV watching what happened down in Memphis. So I was at my friend's house just watching TV and saw it on the news.
So how are you feeling about that?
Oh, I had mixed emotions. It was like everybody back in the back of their mind had thought that something could happen to this brother. I just wasn't ready for it to happen when it happened. But I knew I was just waiting to see what the repercussions. I knew it was going to be some kind of social uprising. It was, we call it a riot, whatever. But I figured the people were going to really turn out when this news hit, when everybody got the news, and it did. That's all I got.
Okay, Mr. Garner.
I was in the Air Force. I was in the Air Force from 1967 to 71. At that particular moment, I really can't recollect. So I was down in Pensacola, Florida, I really didn't see any big outpouring. I wasn't around a bunch of black people at all.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly in the Air Force, it was mostly white guys. I didn't see any big, any big uproar or anything. As for myself, uh, at the time, I had been a Malcolm X advocate, and I still am. And I had just thought to myself that Malcolm had said that Martin's position of nonviolence really didn't make too much sense with your trying to make someone as monstrous as the white race was treating us, trying to make them change their mind. So I was thinking that, I was wondering what Malcolm would say about that, because he had been going back and forth with Martin about why they didn't want to retaliate when someone was clearly attacking them and not do something about it, especially when those four little girls got blown up in that church and killed.
Mm-hmm.
And he just felt that you have to defend yourself for people to respect you. And I just didn't really have a big, I don't know, response to that at all. To be honest, I was thinking about that today. And I was like, I had bigger response when they killed Kennedy in '63. When I seen that on national TV. So I don't know why, but I really didn't have a big response at that time.
Okay. All right, Mr. Hamid, where were you when you got word of that?
Well, when I got word of it, I had just bought my first house on Rumman Avenue, the last street in Newark, the Wigwig section.
Okay.
And before I bought the house, nothing but Jewish people was living in the Wigwig section. And I'm buying this house from this Jewish man, and he told me that he lived in this house for 40 years, and he really didn't want to sell this house. And the house was only $17,000. This is in 1968, $17,000. So he said he raised his family in this house. He really didn't want to leave. So I said to him, I said, sir, take your house back. He said, no, you buy the house. Now listen what he told me now. He said, you buy the house. He said, but don't worry, we'll be back in 35 to 40 years. That was 1968. Okay. But when they killed Martin Luther King, I was in my house, and Martin Luther King came to Newark, I think around 1960, 65 or 66. I got a chance to meet Martin Luther King.
Really?
He was,
okay.
yes, he was.
He went to Shabazz.
Yeah, he was a powerful man, and may he be forgiven. Okay. And you mentioned Malcolm, Mr. Garner. How old was Malcolm when he died?
About the same.
I'm asking Mr. Garner.
I don't know. 40, 41, 41. I'm not sure.
This is the point I want to bring out to us as people. Don't let this history just pass by. Let's study this history. Do the research on this history. Martin Luther King was killed. They killed him. Malcolm, they killed him. These are two powerful men that came from our community. Let's study their history and teach our children this history. Just don't let it. These men died for us, man. Mm-hmm. And Malcolm was also 39 years old. Okay, mm-hmm. He was 39, and Martin Luther King was 39. Okay, mm-hmm. So let's and another thing. Where was Martin Luther King born at?
Birmingham? No, not
Birmingham.
Huh? I started to say Birmingham, Alabama, but wherever his father's church was, I guess. I don't
This is
know.
the,
Alabama.
but this, huh?
He was born in Alabama.
No, Mr. Craig, you know, Mr.
No,
Craig.
sir. No, sir.
This is the point I'm bringing out. Okay, Martin Luther King was born in Georgia. Okay, he was born in Georgia.
Okay.
Where was Elijah Muhammad born at? Another powerful man. He was born in Georgia. And where was Malcolm born at?
Arkansas.
Malcolm was born in Omaha, Nebraska.
Mm.
But guess where his father was born at? Georgia.
Georgia.
Yes. So some powerful leaders came out of Georgia. Okay. Let's study this history, man. Okay. And don't let this history go away from our people, man. And what you're doing, Mr. Craig, is a beautiful thing you're doing here, because our people have to know this history, man. Okay.
Yes, we do. We do. We really do.
Yes. So thank you.
So, yeah. No, going back to you, Mr. Muhammad. Now, you pointed out something that I was not really aware of
Okay.
when we were talking previously. And you told me the reason why Dr. King was appointed as the civil rights leader during that movement. So you want to elaborate on that discussion there?
Well, like I said earlier, Martin Luther King, father and grandfather was beautiful speakers. Okay, they was beautiful speakers. So just like Mr. Garner said, I like what he did in the beginning. He recognized his elders. Okay, he recognized our ancestors, and we're standing on our ancestors. Okay, our ancestors did a beautiful job. This is why we here. Okay, this is why we here. Who are we? I give an example. What happened one day. This is about 35 years ago. I had to take my son to the hospital. And when I went to the hospital, I had to fill out an application. I never filled an application before. And on the application, they asked me, "Are you black? Are you Negro? Are you Hispanic? Or are you white?" And I looked on the application, and this is what I said. I said, "Man," I said, none of these fit me." She said, "Well, who are you?" And this what came out me, Mr. Garn, genetically. I said, "Ma'am, I'm a survivor." She said, "Well, put that down." I said, "Ma'am," I said, "How you spell survivor?" And that's what I put down there. And that's who we are as a people. Look what we've been through. We are survivors, man. Look what we've been through. And what I'm saying to all of us, let's study our history so we don't make the same mistakes that we made before. Okay?
All right. Awesome.
I can't agree with that anymore. But I did have a thought, if you may.
Yes.
First of all, I don't want anyone to think that I was any way dismissing the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in any way by saying I respected Malcolm X. It was later in years that I learned how intelligent and how much of a great man it takes to have a nonviolent strategy.
Right.
I mean, it's easy to get angry and pick up a gun, but it is even more difficult to not go with your emotions and come up with a strategy, a long-term strategy of civil rights advancement, such that your children's children can benefit from that. So I give all due respect to Dr. King for what he's done. What I wanted to say is, if that historical context that was brought along by Mr. Muhammad, we should also acknowledge some of the people that led up to Dr. King. because Dr. King was even standing on the feet of some giants too. Marcus Garvey and W.E.B. Du Bois had put in much work toward trying for the betterment of our people. And this was before Martin Luther King was even thought of. So there's a continuity, if you will, of great leaders, of great African American leaders, or that came before Martin and after him to try to change this world for the better. And we should definitely, in terms of learning our history, we should study these great men too, especially W.E.B. Du Bois, another one of my favorites. I even like Paul Robeson, even though Paul Robeson wasn't really a politician per se, but he, to me, was one of the greatest human beings that ever lived on this planet, given his environment that he grew up in the 1920s and the 1930s, and all the achievements he made, being Phi Kappa Beta at Princeton University and going to the NFL, becoming a lawyer, and becoming one of the greatest singers, bass baritone singers in the world. So there's been a number of people that along the way, great leaders that set the stage, Harriet Tubman too, that set the stage for Martin. Sometimes when one person comes along, it has to be the right time for his message to be heard. A lot of times you could come along and have the most profound message of all. But if people aren't ready for it, it may not get through. Just like Elijah Muhammad. When Elijah Muhammad came through, some people weren't ready for what he had to say. But you have to let history define your time and respect that, because your time is your time. And so you really, if you're going to study history, you have to study the linear advancement of each person and how they got where they were. You got to research the research. So if you're going to read about Martin, fine. Dr. King, fine. You also got to read about W.E.B. Du Bois. You also got to read about Marcus Garvey. You also got to read about all the other pieces to that puzzle. In the humankind, there's so many pieces to the puzzle that make that happen. I like to say, when Barack Obama became president, it wasn't so much that he was a brilliant speaker or a brilliant person. He came just at the right time, where things had culminated to the boiling point where it was time for us to have our time, have our chance. And it was against someone that wasn't that great. So it happened, but there was a lot of things that happened to make it happen. That's all I say.
All right, so let me ask you guys this. All right, so during that time period, would you say the city of Newark supported more Malcolm X or more with Dr. King?
That's an individual thing, because you can't say that the city supported.
City of Newark, yeah, that's
right.
That's
the
mouthful.
Guys, as individuals, then, who did you support more? Who did you gravitate towards more?
I gravitated toward Baraka. Mary Baraka he had his own movement at the time, where people would come to him to get what I call an Afrocentric understanding of what was going on politically, because he wanted to help people change the way we were giving our votes to certain people, not getting anywhere. As a matter of fact, he wanted to help Ken Gibson get in office. So he was trying to change are the dynamics, if you will, of us, of how we looked at North. You know, at the time, I guess people looking at North where you go get some jobs or something, but he wanted to look at it as getting power, speaking truth to power for Black people.
And what was his name?
Imari Baraka, the mayor's.
Remember, I mentioned it to you yesterday when we spoke.
The
The
mayor,
more people
Baraka's
locally.
father?
yeah, Raj Baraka's father.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to read up on him. He was one of the greatest poets ever.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I want to say, who can tell me what year was Newark discovered?
I have no idea.
Okay, write this down. Remember, it was discovered 1666. 1666, and it was in. I took a cruise up the Hudson one year, and they broke down New York. New York was bought by the York family from England, and some of the families in New York didn't like what was going on, so they moved from New York, and guess where they came? They came here, and they named it. It's not called Newark. It's really called the New Ark. They represent the New Ark is a very spiritual town here. This is a spiritual town, the New Ark. Okay, let me give you an example. In 1960, I had to go to the convention in Chicago. It's called Savior's Day, with the Army Elijah Muhammad, and so we standing on the corner. Minister Malcolm came over to us. It was 10 of us, 10 of brothers standing together. And Minister Malcolm came over to us and he said, I know where your brothers is from. I said, Minister Malcolm, all these thousands of brothers are here. How you know where we from and where we from anyway? Because I just knew Minister Malcolm didn't know where he's from. And he said, you brothers are from Newark, New Jersey. Temple number 25. I said, Brother Minister Malcolm, how do you know we was from Newark, New Jersey? He said, nobody dressed like you brothers from Newark, and you brothers from Newark are very spiritual. The point I'm bringing out here is Newark is a very spiritual town here. This is a very spiritual town. Let's do the research of Newark and study the city of Newark because it's a spiritual town. Okay, I just want to share that with you. Thank you.
All right. Okay, that was good. That was good. All right, so now after Dr. King and Malcolm X were assassinated, so who were the leaders that were looked upon to kind of fill that void?
Well, Brother Jesse tried. Brother Jesse Jackson tried to. He tried to step up, but I don't know that. I don't know that anyone could really fill those shoes. What's my brother from New York, Harlem?
Reverend Sharpton?
Yeah, Reverend Sharpton. Reverend Sharpton was always been there, always been around.
You have to give Muhammad Ali some credit too.
Yeah.
He did it his way.
Yeah. Speaking of spiritual, Adam Clayton Powell was one of the greatest speakers and reverends in Harlem and in Congress. He's one of the greatest congressmen. So you have to know about Adam Clayton Powell and what he did in Harlem to turn that place around and get money into the school systems and get, very, very much needed better facilities. So in terms of spiritual, I want to keep on that spiritual track. You really can't talk about African Americans without looking at their spiritual connection with the churches and how we help that have a certain amount of resiliency to make it through all this. I was watching some shows where they were singing gospel, talking about gospel songs. A lot of times those gospel songs are what got us through. Like Fannie Lou Hamer, who's another one of my heroes. You speak women. Fannie Lou Hamer was one of the most strongest representatives out of Mississippi at the Democratic Convention in 1964. And but before she got there, they had grabbed her and locked her up for nothing, and beat her like a slave, made her take her shirt off, and beat her with sticks or with 37 lashes just for speaking up for her people. But she was a spiritual woman, and she wouldn't let no physical thing turn her around. That's another thing with Dr. King, as well as a lot of our so-called leaders. They had a spiritual base, a spiritual essence. They understood that we could not do this alone. Right. We could not do this by ourselves. You needed more help than just mankind. And so that was a good point Brother Muhammad made about spiritual, because that's what all of this, when it comes down to it, that's what it's all about, man. You don't have a spiritual support, even family-wise or church-wise, or even just between you and someone else, then you're going to run into a situation that is just going to be too much. Mm-hmm. And you'll find yourself falling down on your knees and praying for better times and better days. And trust me, he's come through for all of us so far.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So with that being said, so who do we look upon as being our leaders now? Yeah.
I think the looking toward leadership thing might have played out, because a lot of my so-called leaders have passed away. Not just Dr. Martin Luther King, mm-hmm. but Dr. Clark, Dr. Ben, a lot of some of the people I thought was the greatest people, even Imari Baraka, passed away. So I think when they passed, before they passed on their teachings to us, to our generation. So right. Now it's time for our generation to try to take the mantle. I used to tell kids that life is like a relay race. You know how the relay race goes? The first guy has the baton. He runs his quarter mile. He passes his baton. He passes it until you get to the end.
Right.
I think life is like that. There's only so far you can run in a lifetime.
Yes.
And then the question is, once you've done all you could, you have to be able to turn around and pass that baton to someone else. That's one thing I really like about Mr. Steele. Mr. Steele understands that very well. And from his legacy of his family, from his legacy of his players, from his legacy of his friends, he knows that if the time comes where he wants to just either take it easy or move on, he could just turn around and pass the baton, and that's and think that it's in good hands, and that's what it's about, man. Because
but
you don't want
it. That's the question, though, right? That's the question that Mr. Mccray is asking. Who's going to take the baton now?
Yeah.
Well,
I want somebody to step up.
Right.
I want to say this here.
Yes, sir.
The race is not over.
Right.
Who are we as a people? We are human beings, okay? Right. And every one of us was a sperm in our father's back. And that sperm, our father put that sperm into our mother. In that sperm, we had hundreds of brothers and sisters that was in that sperm. And the Almighty only chose one to go in that sperm. Chose you, Mr. Garner, chose you, Mr. Gray, chose you, Mr. Steele, and chose me, Mr. Muhammad. He chose us to go into that egg. Then after 4 months, the soul was put into the egg. Then after 9 months, we came out on this planet Earth. So each and every one of us is a leader.
It's true.
So first we got to lead ourselves, lead our family, and then lead the community.
Okay.
Stop depending upon a leader. Just like you say, Martin Luther King is gone. All the
Right.
leaders is gone. Look at the men that Elijah Muhammad produced. Number one, Malcolm. Number two, Farrakhan. Number three, Muhammad Ali. Number four, Imam Worthy Muhammad. Look at the men that he produced, man. And these men is in our subconscious mind. So what we got to start doing now, we got to start planning out, just like the Jew told me, we'll be back in 35 to 40 years. How many of us is planning 35 to 40 years now? And the way we plan 35 to 40 to 100 years now, we have to be careful of our children, what goes into our children's subconscious mind. Do y'all know who Walt Disney was?
Yeah, we thought we did.
Walt Disney was a Satan worshiper. And I said, a Satan worshiper, and I studied his cartoons. I watched Barney. So our children, 2 years old, is watching Barney. And Barney says, he tells our children, he said, there's no God. And he said, and since there's no God, I'm God. I said, whoa. This went into our children's subconscious mind that there's no God, and since there's no God, I'm God. Then Barney goes into, he goes to the beach, and he goes into the dressing room, and when he come out the dressing room with long earrings, a bra, and a bikini. A male changed into a female. Okay, so I knew right then that we can't allow our children to watch those cartoons, because what goes in their subconscious mind has an effect on our children. I give you an example. One day I'm at the bus stop, and I'm at the bus stop, and the lady, this young girl is about 26 years old. She's on the phone talking, and this is what she said. She said, I knew at 5 years old I was going to be a lesbian. I said, oh my God. How did she know at 5 years old she's going to be a lesbian? Because all that's being produced in our community. We got to save our community, man. We have to save our community. And it's on us. We just can't be here and then leave. We got to do something positive to help humanity. It's on us.
Amen. Amen, brother. All right. Good word.
But Mr. Muhammad, that goes back to what we were saying. Each family has to do that, because that's even more prevalent now on the TV. It's worse now than it's ever been, as far as the message, the subliminal messages they're sending out. So as parents and as leaders of our families, we have to make sure that the kids are getting the right message.
Okay, can I ask all y'all a question? Sure. I think I told you, Mr. Craig. I'm gonna ask y'all a question. What do you think is the number one killer in the Black community?
The number one killer? Black people?
Arthritis. No.
Right, it's killing me.
Disease. Guns. High blood pressure.
Yeah.
The number one killer in the Black community from 1972 until now has been abortion. We have killed 13 million Black babies in the abortion clinic. We being exterminated, don't even know it.
Let me just say this, since Mr. Muhammad brought up TV, I think that we have to acknowledge that TV is what shapes our leaders today. What we see on TV, like Jay-Z, or I even heard somebody say LeBron for president.
Kanye West.
Yeah, Kanye West, that nut. But you know, we're so inundated with TV versions of our reality that
Yes.
that we don't look at the real reality when like even Obama is still around. Obama hasn't gone anywhere, but we get caught up in TV's version. When something goes wrong in our community, they go ask LeBron, what does he think about it? Or they might ask Jay-Z, or they might ask what's the other guy who owned Brooklyn Nets, the Brooklyn uh,
Yeah, that's Jay-Z.
yeah.
Jay on
No,
part
there's another one who got the shirts out and stuff, who got a clothing line and stuff like that. But they'll go to somebody who's
Mhm.
basically an entertainer.
Yeah, yeah.
And then and anybody that's not an entertainer who don't have the TV ambiance,
Right.
then they're not listened to or talked about.
That's
If you
true.
don't have followers, who who is most listened to is the one who got he who has the most followers wins.
This is true.
So it
True.
could
and
be
that's big now. The
that's
power,
huge.
the amount of
That's huge on Instagram.
Yeah.
So like I look at this little guy, Lil Wayne or whatever.
Right.
I was listening. They was interviewing him. I was like, what the? He's popular, and they
right.
was like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And he was like, even white people love him. And so I was like, Lil Wayne, this guy. I'm like, how could that be? But then that shows you the power of the media.
Social media.
Media power. This is
Yep.
why I told Rob Mccray personally in a message that I really really respect him for putting on this show like this and getting a handle on social media to do this, express ideas, because it is powerful.
Yes, it is.
It's powerful.
Very much.
Apparently, it's very powerful. And
Yes.
until we grasp, like I said, it depends where you are in the moment of time, then you're not going to get it. You're not going to be heard. So if Instagram, not even Facebook, is that's the hot thing, unless we get a leader who's on Instagram with 1 billion followers, he's not going to be heard.
That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah, yeah. I want to say you mentioned music during slavery time. How we used to talk to one another. We used to talk to one another in the music.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Songs.
would talk to one another in music, and they didn't realize what was going on, but we would tell one another how to move and whatnot.
Yeah.
This is
Mm.
how they really woke up to us. You know when they woke up to us when James Brown came out with the song "I'm Black and
Black
Proud."
and I'm proud.
Exactly, and that's
Yeah.
what they
I
said.
got that one.
Yes, they said these folks
Right.
can speak to one
Say
another
it,
in the
say it
music,
loud.
and that's when they took control
Of
of
the
the
media.
music. Okay,
Yeah.
now what they're doing now is they got these rappers. Listen, this discriminating our women. Okay,
Right.
they
Right.
pay
Right.
them millions of dollars
Right.
to sell it to say that. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
even the music, we have to be careful of the music that's going into our subconscious mind. I give you an example of how powerful thought can go into the subconscious mind. Um, Years ago on Canal Street in New York, back in the 50s, they had nothing but prostitutes out there on the corner. Nothing but prostitutes out there in the corner. They had about 10 or 11 of them. You can go to past and pick any kind you want, okay? So this one lady, she worked at Wall Street. She worked at Wall Street, and she rode past there and saw those prostitutes out there. She said, I wonder why those women is out there selling their body like that. And she would come on back to Jersey. To make a long story short, 3.5 years later, guess what? She was out there selling her body. Okay. Yeah, so
Mm.
we have to be very careful what goes into the subconscious mind. And
Right.
that's the power of the conscious is to protect what goes in the subconscious mind. And the very, very critical point of time is when our children come out of the womb. The first 5 years Those children's subconscious mind, and that's on the parent.
Let me just piggyback on that music thing with Brother Muhammad when he said James Brown, because that used to be my favorite one. But before James Brown came out, Sam Cooke came out with a song called "A Change Is Gonna Come." That was very powerful song for the 50s and the 60s. And all of a sudden, he died.
No,
mysteriously.
no.
And then after that, it was Teddy Pendergrass said, "Wake up, everybody."
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, he got taken down. I mean, they didn't kill him, but all of a sudden, he's gone. Wake up, wake up, everybody is one of the most strongest statement songs that was ever made. All of a sudden, no more Teddy. And then you look at the history of how music evolved and all of that. That's a very good point. How the music industry, they control which music that we hear because they want to control our minds and they want to control what we're listening to every day. If you're playing it every day, you got the subconscious mind thinking that every day. So it's a very powerful thing that they're in control of. They even took a lot of black radio stations off because they felt that they weren't playing the types of music that they wanted to hear. They even had talk shows where they were talk shows similar to Rob's, but it was on the radio, and they felt that they were getting too serious and teaching people too much. So now they're gone. You know, they just said, well, we're WLIB. They had a lot of black stations. All of a sudden now you can't even find one on the dial. So it's very difficult to try to get and keep any leaders if you don't have anyone controlling the message.
Well, let me say this here. Bill Cosby. Do y'all remember the Bill Cosby show?
Yes.
Yes.
What did Bill Cosby? What was he on that show?
Doctor.
And what was his wife?
Doctor.
Lawyer.
Oh, lawyer.
That was a very successful show for our people. Okay, that show was a hit for 8 to 10 years. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby. This was a deep brother. Okay. 1960. You remember? I don't know. You might. Steel and Gun might remember. You remember? What did Bill Cosby play in the early 60s?
I Spy.
Right. That's what he played in. And Bill Cosby became a hit, man. He became very successful. So one day he co-hosted for Johnny Carson, and he came out with a big bow tie, white shirt, and a suit. I said, Bill, why are you dressed like that? I'm watching this. And what he was doing, he was imitating this Jewish comedian. I can't remember his name. Okay. But Bill Cosby was very wise. Okay. Bill Cosby became very rich. He became so rich from that show, Bill Cosby show, that he was able to, when NBC was for sale, Bill Cosby was going to buy NBC. Okay. And what did they do to Bill Cosby? They went to Bill Cosby and told him, "We don't want you to buy NBC." He said, "What you mean? I got the money, I'm gonna buy him." And what did they do to Bill Cosby? Anybody know?
Yeah, they charged him. They convicted him.
No.
What's this?
No.
You talking about back then?
Back then, yes.
No, back then, I don't know.
This is why this history is so beautiful. They killed his son. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Okay. They killed his son. Sending a message out there. Don't you buy this TV program?
I already killed himself, but go ahead.
No. That's what. There you go.
I heard he jumped out of the car.
That's what they want you to think. Okay. They killed him. Okay. Okay. But now, Bill Cosby is coming back. Bill Cosby is getting ready to open up the show again. He's getting ready to build Bill Cosby's show again. That's one of the reasons why they took Bill Cosby down. Okay, took him down. All right. So what I'm saying to us as a people, man, come on, man, let's come together and let's change this. Let's change this situation. And like you say, if you have a pencil, say Black Lives Matter. Take live and spell it backwards. What do you come up with? Spell it backwards. You got a pen, Mr. Garner? Spell live back. What do you come up with?
Black Lives Matter backwards.
No, lie. Just lie. Spell it backwards. Lie.
Civil. That's evil.
Say it again.
That's evil.
You're right. Okay. So these people deal with things in reverse. Okay. You mentioned Sam Cooke. Okay. Do you know why they killed Sam Cooke?
No.
Sam Cooke was getting ready to open up a music industry. Okay. They took him down. Okay. Okay. They don't want us to grow up into economics.
Right.
And they don't want us to be we are a threat to them economic. Okay, let's start doing something. Get our community back, man.
All right. So let's bring it forward now. So we talked about what went on back in yesteryear and during the times of the late 60s and 70s. So let's look at what's going on now with the killing of Mr. George Floyd and some other individuals that had their lives taken for no probable cause. And we go into the protests that have been going on all across the world, not just here in the United States, but all across the world. And at a lot of these protests, we notice that a lot of white people are at the forefront of taking these initiatives to go out and do these protests. So my question to you guys is, did you see this type of interaction going on during the time of, as Mr. Garner would say, the rebellion, or is this something different that we're witnessing now?
Well, I was thinking about this question, and like Mr. Muhammad says, you got to know your history.
Yes, sir.
Back in the Vietnam era, there were white and black people protesting the Vietnam War.
Yes.
Major protests. The protest was so intense, they came to a college, Kent College in Ohio somewhere, and shot and killed 4 people. That's how much they feared the protest. They had white people protesting the Republican National Party outside and arrested people for no reason at all.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not the first time there has been a protest, maybe not as large. But what I'll say about this protest is, whenever you see somebody protesting, that's a tactic. Protesting for Dr. King was one tactic they used, but they also used boycotting. They also used sit-ins. They also used writing letters to the governor, writing letters to the president, and all in an attempt to have a civil rights bill. So there was a method to their madness. They weren't just using a tactic, one time, without no clear goal. The question I would ask is, who's leading this protest? Who are the leaders of it? Where are they coming from? What is their ultimate strategy? It seemed to be very effective in New York. They was cutting off traffic, but where is their goals? Where are the leaders meeting with the governor? They have a very responsive governor in New York. Where are the leaders with their demands? Now there are some in Portland. They're very aggressive.
Yes.
And they took over a police precinct.
Yeah.
And they was going to take over a court building. Yeah. So they're very aggressive. But I would still ask them, once you took it over, what are you going to do?
Right.
What are you going to? If somebody let you in the candy store and said, "Okay, you're in charge," what are you going to do? You can't eat all the candy. What are you?
Yeah.
What are you going to do? You got all this candy at your disposal, and then
Right.
something you get. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
So you have to have a plan, a well thought out plan that goes further than just yourself and further than that day. And no one has, that I've seen or read about, has articulated that plan.
Mhm.
All I know is they march and march and march, and then they stop. Someone jumps up with a mic and speaks and say "No justice, no peace," and then they go sit down.
Mhm.
So what is the point? Where are they
Craig,
going with this?
Craig, one of the major differences now is that we have politicians in place where back in the 60s, when we protest and we march, we was basically speaking to the people. But now we have like governors, we have
Right,
mayors that could implement some
Mayor.
of the stuff that they're protesting for.
Right,
Yeah.
So it kind of helps because I mean I've watched some shows on CNN where they've had 3 or 4 black mayors of cities that were been having protests, and
right,
these mayors are making changes that we didn't have back then.
Oh yeah.
right,
Oh
right.
yeah.
You know, we didn't have anybody in control that could legislate laws and change the system enough
Right.
to make a change.
That's a good point, Ralph. But the biggest change what I would call a change, is reparations got put on the table down in North Carolina. So
Yeah,
that to me is significant change.
I saw that. Right.
Now, unless you're talking about they're talking about defunding. That their big thing is defunding the police. But if you're not talking about getting these guns out of some of these crazy police hands, what is that going to do? The bad cops, and there's good cops, but the not so good cops still got their hands on a gun, still controlling situation, still killing people every
I
day.
didn't say it was working. I just said that's the difference. I don't
Right,
think it's
right,
going to
yeah,
work
yeah, yeah,
either.
yeah. You're right. You're right.
It's
It
not going
isn't.
to work.
It should. It should work. And let me speak to that. One of the big things with Dr. King and them was that they wanted us to integrate into this society, to become integrated. That was huge. To be able to do what people do, go where people go, and see what people see with no repercussion. However, if what people are doing isn't good for you or your family, then why would you want to replicate that? Why would you want to integrate into that? Now, Elijah Muhammad has always said, no, we don't want to integrate into that wrong stuff, that bad stuff. We want to create our own. Marcus Garvey, no, we don't want to integrate into your stuff. We want to create our own. And so what once these people become leaders, they have to decide to do things differently. They have to decide they're not going to replicate the bad stuff. And unfortunately, a lot of times, like you said, Ralph, is they get in there and then they just start, following the line. They're forced to follow the line. This guy Booker, very articulate and everything, but what is he really doing for us? He's a very articulate guy, very smart, graduated. He got connections. But what is he really doing? But lining his pocket. I don't
Right.
know. I know he might not be doing, but when you get these people in there, they have to be able to take another look at how is this going to be for the betterment of our people.
Okay, I'm gonna ask a question. Can anybody tell me? You laugh, Mr. Steve.
No, I'm waiting for the question. I'm going to get this one right.
Okay, I got $100 in my pocket. Okay, okay. Can anybody tell me why Hitler killed 6 million Jews?
I never really pondered that.
Okay,
Well, I would say power, but also the need to have a ethnic majority of only Germans to wipe out anything else.
You're 25% right. Okay, very
Thank
good.
you.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes. Okay.
Get
People
them
don't
work.
know that Hitler wanted a predominantly white race,
Yes. Yes.
and the Jewish people, a lot of people don't know, have black blood in them.
Yes.
Okay, they have black blood in them. So he took 6 million of them out. Now, my other question is, from Africa to America, how many of us was killed?
Oh man.
This is
I
history
say
now.
6 million.
Oh, oh,
Mr. Garner,
50 million.
Mr. Craig,
I go with that 6 million.
100 million of us was killed from Africa to America.
Mm.
My other question is, anyone tell me, I think I told you, Mr. Craig, so can anyone tell me why is it called April 1st? What is April 1st called?
April Fool's Day.
And why is it called April Fool's Day?
I have no idea.
It's the first day. It's the first day we landed here in America from Africa. They made a fool out of us. All right. Now, getting back to respiration. Getting back to respiration. Do you know that the Jews got over $100 billion for reparation? They got over $100 billion for reparation, and they get $4 billion annually now. Okay, they get it $4 billion annually. Can I ask you, Mr. Garner, how much do you get for 400 years of slavery that your parents went through?
0.
You, Mr. Seal?
I haven't received it yet, but it's on the way.
Okay,
Right.
0. You, Mr. Craig?
That would be a big fat 0 for me as well, sir. So,
All right, 0. Okay. My point is this here. When Obama became president, do you know what school Obama went to? What college he graduated from?
Harvey.
And do you know who gave Obama his first job? Henry Kissinger. Henry Kissinger gave him his first job. They had already planned for Obama to be president of the United States. We didn't elect him. He was selected by them. Okay, he was selected by them. And for two reasons Obama was selected for them. The first one, America lost Africa. They lost Africa. And they wanted to get Africa back. And where was Obama father from?
Africa.
All right. And the other, what law did Obama pass before he left office?
No.
Y'all know, but once I tell you, you're gonna say, "Oh, he passed the homosexual law." Okay. Now, but we were so happy with Obama being a black president, we didn't ask Obama for nothing. And what we should have asked Obama for was reparation. We should ask for that. We should have asked, and we still not asking for that. Do you know that the Indians of America is being paid? And if you got 2% of Indian blood in you, the American government would give you $500 a month. My grandfather and grandmother is Indian, so I'm gonna do my research so I get my $500 a month. But the point I'm bringing out is like all of us said we getting 0 for the 400 years. That can you imagine? Y'all can imagine that. Y'all ain't gonna work for nobody for a month for nothing. 400 years we worked in America. We established America, man. Okay, so let's get our people to ask for reparations, even though they're doing something in North Carolina. All they're doing in North Carolina is building buildings. They're not giving them money back. They're not giving them money.
That's a mighty big ask. I just say this about politics. For you to get anything done, you have to do someone else a favor. One of the things Obama did do at his time was health care. He pushed through a health care bill, a national health care bill, what they call Obamacare, when it was actually affordable health care.
yes.
He pushed that through at a time the majority of Americans, not just black, didn't have hardly no health care, couldn't afford health care, still can't, some can't today. So that was a big ask, but he put all his marbles in that basket. But before even that, when he got in, America was falling financially and going bankrupt. GM was bankrupt. Some of the biggest corporations were bankrupt. He got all of them bailed out to the tune of over 8 million, maybe $8 billion, and saved this country from going into a steep depression.
Right. The
So
auto
that's going to
industry.
be his claim to fame. I don't care if he didn't do nothing else. When he got in office, I thought this country was getting ready to go straight to you know where.
It
But
was.
he somehow
He brought
he
it back.
pulled enough connections and resources in the Congress and the Senate, which you need to get anything done, to pull that out via reparation for corporations and stuff to help them sustain a housing market crisis when he got in. So when he got in, the country was broke. The country was getting ready to have the biggest recession you ever seen.
Yes,
And that's
sir.
documented. So for him to get us through that, just that's his credit. Now, if he tried to put reparation on the table, I'm sure he wouldn't have got nothing done. They would just held that. They would have held that up forever.
Yeah.
That's a good point, Greg.
Can I ask another question? Okay. What is the number one? What is the number one and number two money maker in America?
Drugs.
No. Land.
No.
Stocks. Some kind of stocks. Microsoft stocks.
The number one money maker in America is war. War. That's the number money maker in America. Yeah, and the number two money maker in America is incarceration.
Yes.
Number one is war. Number two is incarceration. Okay. So this is what's going on now. Okay. And this is why so many of us are being incarcerated. Okay.
Yes. Just trying to respond to someone in the comments. Yes, Mr. Youssef, I can see your posts and comments that you're making. Yeah, I'm posting some of them on the screen.
Okay.
Now, speaking to someone in the audience that was posting a comment. All right, so guys, let me ask you this. Now, we're gonna get ready to wrap things up here. All right, so you guys have obviously been through a lot. You've seen a lot. You have a great deal of knowledge, wisdom, and experience. So looking present day now, looking at more or less my generation and the younger generation coming up now, would you say that we are in a good place now, or do we need to pick it up and, put forth more effort to take us get us into a better place and a better position in life?
Yes, I want to say that I want to thank all the white people that is helping us. Okay, they are the one who started this Black Lives Matter. Okay, we didn't start it; they started because they know they have a plan to take us out. Okay, and can anyone tell me why Kobe? A lot of y'all don't know Kobe was killed. Can anyone tell me why he was killed? But you don't believe that. But Kobe was getting ready to take the drug company to court. Number one, and number two, they love Kobe Bryant in China, and he was getting ready. He was getting ready to buy the NBCA, the basketball, whatever you call it, the basketball. Okay. What day did Kobe died on?
Come on, man.
No,
It was a
like you
Sunday.
said, that's the
It
point
was
I'm
a
bringing.
Sunday.
That's the point I'm bringing out. The point I'm bringing, like he said, come on, man, what difference does that make? Okay, but you got to study. They killing a lot of our leaders, man. And we, like you said, come on, man, study the history of that. Okay, study the history of that. Do do the research on Kobe's life. His number was 24. His daughter number was 2. 24 and 2 is what? 26. What day he died on? 26. Do your
He,
research, okay? My point is this here. They killing us left and right, and if we don't do something about it, how many of y'all know where Trump father comes from? Where was Trump father born at?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Do you know where Trump father was born at?
No.
He was born in Germany. Okay, he was born in Germany. And do you know Trump father got locked up 2 times in America? Trump's father now, he got locked up do your research, got locked up 2 times in America. One in Chicago, one in New York. And do you know what he got locked up for? Being a Ku Klux Klan member. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, his father.
I
Okay.
heard that before.
Okay. Yeah. All right. But the point I'm bringing out to us is, if we don't do something, they got a plan. They got a plan to exterminate us. Now, if we don't come together, stop looking for a leader. You're a leader. You're a leader. We all leaders now. Let's come together and do something about our children, man. And I tell the women, stop giving your children those Similacs. You don't know what in the world is in those Similacs. Breastfeed your child for 2 years. Breastfeed a child for 2 years, and be careful what goes in your child's subconscious mind, because we're losing our children. And what are these phones called? The smartphone. Why you think they call it a smartphone? Because now they're doing it smarter now. Okay, your children, while you're in the bed sleeping, your children watching pornography. Your wife is watching pornography. Okay, so what I'm saying to us is they're doing it smarter, but we also got to do it smarter. We got to come together as a community and do something to help our community and help the human being, to where the human being can grow into a different dimension.
All right. Okay. So you made a good point there, speaking on unity, and I'm going to bring up this question or comment that Mr. Brinkley made as well, and that talks about, this all starts with us, within our own Black communities. So the brother asked, so what can we do to stop the murders within our own neighborhoods? So brothers, want to address that?
Okay. Oh man, this is really heavy now. Okay, can y'all tell me, do we make any guns in our community?
No.
So the guns don't come from us. The guns come to our community, and we get the guns, and we are killing one another. Okay, because now we are being taught to hate one another. I give you an example. The cigarette. Look at the name of the cigarette. It's called Black and Mild. Do y'all know that Black and Mild is not sold in the white community? The liquor, malt liquor. Do you know malt liquor is not sold in the Black community? So a lot of times our children is smoking and stuff, drinking and stuff, but what is it doing to their brain? Okay, mentally they're losing it. So they get a gun, and they're being programmed to kill, to hate one another. And do you know that 70% of children are being born from unwedded mothers? 70% of marriage in divorce. So we have to take a look at this. We impregnating our women, and there's no father around. Now, another thing, why is it called Section 8?
I have no idea.
Okay, so you got to remember they deal in symbols and signs. When you play pool, all the color ball is in the rack. I don't know how many of y'all play pool, but all the color balls in the rack. And the white ball breaks the ball up, shoot all the color balls in the pocket. And for him to win the game, he got to call the pocket. He gonna shoot the 8 ball in. And once he shoot the 8 ball in the pocket, he won the game. And what color balls left on the table?
White.
White.
And what color is the table?
Green.
And what the green represent in America?
Money.
Exactly. So the new man for our women now is not you and us. It's not you, Mr. Steele. It's not you, Mr. Gum. It's not you, Mr. Cray. It's not you, Mr. Muhammad. Because our women now have no need for us because they got Section 8, they got WIC, they got all these programs, so they don't need you no more. So you tell them, "Where's my dinner?" She tell you, "Go make your dinner yourself." And now our women, I looked at the window the other day, and I never seen this before. I seen a lady truck driver driving the garbage truck, picking up the garbage. Our women are coming out of the house because now it's like you say, 70% of women are having babies, but they're unwed mothers. They're not married. So we got to bring marriage back into our community, man.
Mr. Garner, you want to add anything to that?
I just add that I'm glad you had Mr. Muhammad on here. he has a wealth of knowledge. He's scared.
He does. He definitely does.
I thought I was something. But one thing he said about the guns is I was thinking about that the other day, where you put these guns out in the community along with the ammunition, you have to wonder, how are they getting this? Where is this ammunition coming from? Where are these guns coming from? And then if you think, okay, you're putting it in the hands of a colonized people who have been colonized to hate themselves. That's like a loaded stick of dynamite. If I raise you every day to hate someone that looks like you, then I turn around and put a gun in your hand, what do we think is going to happen? The minute I seen somebody in the news today, he just bumped into a guy's arm. He just touched it. The guy turned around in the store and punched him in the face. He, in turn, ran after the guy, went outside, got outside. The guy shot him point blank in the chest and then left. No recriminations whatsoever. The bottom line is we have to love ourselves first before we can love anybody else. We have to care for one another. We have to care for one another like there's no tomorrow. We also really, really need to know our history, just like Mr. Muhammad says. If you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it. So we have to study our history and know who we are and whence we came from. And like my scholars taught me, we have to decide if we're willing, you said, where are we going? If we're willing to build an Afrocentric society. What do I mean by that? A society built around African thought, a society built around African ways of doing things. If somebody says, well, why do you do something like that? You say, I don't know, because that's what they did before. Well, guess what? Back in the 20s, the Italians and the Irish used to run around shooting each other. They show that on TV all the time. The mafia, they run around shooting, make it look like cartoons, shooting each other, killing. So we have to decide that integrating into American society was a good idea. It was a great idea, but that had this breaking point once we see that society is doing the types of things that we think we need to be doing. Do we need to be gambling? The big thing now is gambling. Do we need to let our kids be going out gambling their money away? How will they decide? We have to build a culture that is rooted in spiritual honesty and truth. I can't say no more than that. Spiritual honesty and truth in everything we do, and every way we live, and everything, all our expectations, because our children are watching. And if we just go out there thinking a bottle of Henny, getting a bottle of Henny and turning it up, partying is the ultimate success, and getting you a big fancy car is the ultimate success, then we're lost. We're a lost generation. We need
Yes,
to
sir.
define our own goals and our
Yeah.
own objectives. Get the liquor stores out your community. Own
Mhm.
your own stores. You are the generation. You are the generation of owners. We were the generation of job getters, job seekers, and it wasn't nothing wrong with that. But now you're the generation of not just job seekers, but job builders. You have
Create.
been passed the baton. Now you know how. You not only know how to get a job, you know how to keep a job, but now you also know how to make more jobs.
Yes.
We're past getting a job. If all
Mhm.
you could do is get a job, you missed the boat. We was doing that in the 60s and 70s. It is time for us to start nation building. We
That's
have to
right.
build for the future of our children. You can't even start building for us. You have to build for the future of our children.
Mhm.
Ask yourself, what will our children be doing 20 years from now? And if you can't say in sincerity that they'll be okay because they'll have a business, because they'll have a house, because they'll own stuff, because they'll be making decisions, then we missed the boat. I came to a generation just getting a job school, having a college degree, the BS was cool. But now you got to have a master's degree just to get in the door. You got to have skills. You got to be able to speak more than one language. You got to be able to concentrate and do about 5 things at one time, and have screens all up have all these screens and do things simultaneously, because that's how fast stuff is moving. Things
Right.
is fast, man. Things is moving fast. So if you can't keep up, you just get passed by.
Mhm.
I've been passed by. I don't even get on Instagram because I don't know how to use
I,
Instagram. They say Instagram, and they got some other stuff out there. They Periscope, and it you you're enough. One of the best things that you guys have going is communication. You got communication
Right. Right.
skills, and you can communicate with anyone, anytime, anywhere. You guys can type with your thumbs. I don't know how you do it, but you can.
But
But
Craig, I agree with
but
you
you could
100%.
but you could if you become the one to create those vehicles, create those browsers, create the things that make that happen. That is your future. That is our future. We can no longer wait for someone else to do it. We have to do it, and do it our way, the right way.
yeah, I want to say, Mr. Garment, I agree with you 100% on our community. Okay, we have to get our community back. Okay, and to give you an example, a man came from Cuba to America. He came to America and he went back to Cuba, and he went back to Cuba, and he told the people in Cuba, he said the streets in America are gold.
Mine with gold.
And so one of the guys heard him. So he came to America. He came to America, and he went back to Cuba. And we went back to Cuba. He said, I need to speak to you. He said, yes. He said, you told me that the streets in America was gold. I went over there and I ain't see no gold in the street. He said, oh. He said, I forgot to tell you. The gold is in the black community. Look at our community. How many stores do we own in our community? How many buildings do we own in our community? And like you say, we get to get our community back. If we don't get our community back, and you mentioned job. Let's break job down. JOB, just over broke. Okay. What we need now, we need trades now. Our children need to come out get a year or two trade and start opening up business. We have all we doing is depend upon a job. Job days is over because they have no need for us now. Okay, everything is being done smarter now, not harder, but smarter. So what we have to do now is do it smarter. Okay, we like you said, we got to come together and plan for the future. If we don't plan for the future, our children, like one lady said, I mentioned 70% of the women are having unwed babies, but she mentioned her on the line here. But it take a man to have a baby. That's correct. But boys is having baby. It takes a man to take care of a baby, and this is what we're not doing as black men. We're not taking care of our children. My son called me. He called me about 6 months ago, and he said, "Dad," he said, "I take my hat off to you. You had 18 children and you took care of all your children." He said, "Down how in the world you did it, okay?" But I learned that from my father. My father took care of us. But the point is, that's not being taught in our community where these black men gotta take care of their children. They brag about how many children they're taking care of, but how many are really being fathered those children? So we got to call a spade a spade. What's going on, okay? Because we're losing our families and our families is going haywire. We got to bring these families back. This is why they can say black lives doesn't matter no more. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, guys. Yeah, you really hit it there on the head. It's all about us loving ourselves first and just want to be play a part in where we're trying to uplift and empower our fellow brothers and sisters and not look at them with jealousy and envy. If we all come together and work as one, unified as one, we can accomplish anything that we so desire. But it's just a matter of us coming together and putting our work together to accomplish the goals that we want to achieve. So yes,
Collective consciousness.
absolutely.
Look what we did. Look where we came from slavery until the day. I can remember black people weren't allowed to play golf. We couldn't play in the white community. We couldn't play the sports. We had our own community with our sports, baseball, bat. We had our own community. But now look at the golf. Who became a number one golf man in golf? What's his name? Tiger what? Tiger Woods. Okay, took it over. Okay, look at the basketball. Look at the baseball. Look at the football. We took over the sports. Okay, but the point is, if we can do that sports wise, let's do something spiritually wise. You understand what I'm saying? Because now look, do anyone know how much Kobe Bryant was worth before he passed?
No, sir.
No.
He was worth $6,600 million. That's what this man was worth. Okay, but the point is, let these sports figures come together and do something for our community, man, because they got the money. Okay, but we can't depend upon them. So now what we got to do, we got to depend upon ourselves, and we got to start raising these children to do something for the future. This is because most of us, I'm 79 years old. I'm booking up out of here. Okay, so most of us are leaving here. Okay, so now let's do something. Let's make sure that these children be careful what goes. Keep and please, these cell phones are dangerous, man. Like they said, they're doing smarter because they're going into your children's subconscious mind and putting a thought into their subconscious mind, man.
Right.
So what I'm saying to us now, let us monitor. Most of us is too old to have children. I know I can't have no more. I don't know if I can have any more. But now
You don't need no more.
I don't need no more. What I'm saying to us now is, let's go to our children and grandchildren and let's spend some time with them, because now we just can't be the grandfather. We got to be the grandfather. We got to be there to help our children so they can go into a different dimension in life. Otherwise, they're gonna be taken out by music. Lil Wayne calling our women bees. the nerve to call out women bees, man. What and speaking about cursing, where do you think all these cursing come from? And give an example. Look at the word MF. Okay, the word MF. Where did that come from? During slavery time, this woman was a slave. Our mother was a slave, and she had a baby, and the baby, she had a boy, and when she had the boy, somehow or another the boy got a burnt on his face. So the slave master sold the baby. He sold the baby. He grew up as he grew up. The slave master made him get married, and he got married. So when he got married, the woman says, "Where did you get that scar on your face?" And he told her, and she broke down, started crying because he married his own mother. Okay, and that's where the word MF come from. And then the word B, where did that come from? Then they say when you have a child and you're not married, it become a B. I don't curse. Becomes a B. So all majority of those curse words that we are using is coming from the slavery that we was in. Y'all stop cursing so much. I was on a bus one day, and this young lady was 26 years old. She was 26 years old. She had a son who was 4 years old. She cursed that son out. You MF Bloom. She cursed, and I was getting ready to say something. Some said, "No, don't say nothing to her." Then the man she was with, he did the same thing. Cursed her out. Boom, 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 boom. But what I'm saying, let us stop cursing so much, man. Stop cursing so much, please. Because every time you curse, you commit a sin, and the curse is coming from us. They use the curse word just like the word evil, lies, evil. They, they try to make us negative, man. So let us do some positive things. Stop cursing so much, okay? Because your my mother, father never heard me curse one time. I never cursed around the elders. Never cursed around elders. Okay, so these children nowadays, they don't have no respect for elders. They cursing around the elders, curse around. We never did that. Okay, so let's teach these young children, fathers, that you brag about that you got so many children. Let's teach these children some manners. Okay, thank you.
All right.
All right.
Awesome, awesome. All right, guys. So we're about to wrap things up for this evening. It's truly been an honor and a privilege just to listen to you, gentlemen, and absorb, and listen to all this great information that you have shared with us this evening. But before we close it out, I want each and every one of you to speak a word into our listening audience, a word of positivity, of what we need to be doing as individuals to push forward and create all the things in life that which we truly desire. So what is your message to our listening audience?
I'll go first.
Okay.
I agree with Mr. Garner said earlier about the community, the neighborhood being the solution to this problem. And I think, like myself personally, for the last 40 years, I've been doing just that. Mr. Garner, I tell you, I've been working on our community, on our youth. I don't let them curse around me. Mr. Youssef, I agree with you said about how our dialogue, just all that profanity is accepted. They hear it so much, they think that's the normal. But you have to let them know. We have to let them know that's not normal. That's not acceptable. And just sending that message out. But I don't see how it's gonna work because I've been doing it for 40 years, and I've seen a lot of kids grow up and raise their families, and they've been doing it the right way. But that's still not enough.
Mm.
It's not enough. We still need more to get to the masses. Because while I'm teaching maybe a couple hundred kids or 1,000 kids, there's millions of them out there that's getting it on TV, on the radio, getting all the wrong messages. So I agree that we need to go back to our African ancestors and take up some of the stuff that they took away from us. We
Right.
need to put that back into the youth. And that's the only way for Black people, I think, to survive in this country. But I just can't see it happening. It's I don't know. I put my lifetime into trying to do it, and I don't see that much difference. So
Well,
I don't know how you. I want to hear what Mr. Youssef has to say because
yeah.
you're very learned, and I know I want to know what's your solution.
Okay. Well, what I want to say on it, it's not the the the, the quantity, it's the quality. Okay, and you cannot give up on our people, even though you. I've been working with my people for 60 years, man. If anybody should give up, it's me. Okay, I can remember time you couldn't call a black man a black man. Those are fighting words. Okay,
Right,
those are fighting words. You can call them MF, everything, but soon you say
right.
a black MF, you will fight. So we had to go through that time. Now you can
Almost.
call a black man. He's proud to call. I'm a black man. I'm an African man. But who are you really? Are you what are you? Okay. So we nobody right now. What who are we? We got all kinds of names: African American, Afro American, Black people, Negroes, colored people. So what I'm saying to us is, we cannot give up on our people. If we can only get a few people, if we only can get a few people to change what's going on here in America, that is a beautiful thing to go on. Stop looking at stop looking at the large crowd, okay? Because a large crowd don't do anything. It takes a few people to do something. Look at our leaders. You look at all the leaders we mentioned. These look let's take Malcolm for instance.
Yeah,
Look how powerful that man was. That man, he was locked up in jail, but he came out and shook the world, okay? Because he had a love for his people. But first he had a love for himself. And once he had a love for himself, then he had a love for his people, then he had a love for humanity, okay? And that's one of the reasons they took Malcolm out. They took Malcolm out because Malcolm was getting ready to take UN to court. He's getting ready to unite Africa. Okay, they didn't want that. Okay, so they took Malcolm out. But the point I'm saying to us is, don't give up. If you still here, let's continue helping humanity, man. First, help ourselves, help our family, help our community, and help humanity. Because we didn't. Why you think we here? Why you think we here, man? We here for a reason. And like you say, you teach your children don't curse. Cursing is a rampant in our community, man. It's sad that's going on. So you have a beautiful opportunity to teach young boys how to do the right thing. I never had a black coach. All my coaches was Caucasian. Okay, and I give an example. What happened to me? I white boys. I went out for tackle, and the coach would never let me play first string. I said, "Ain't this a trip?" So what I did, I switched position and went out for end, and I wind up playing first string. But I couldn't depend upon. I was on a mission. I was on a mission to play first string ball. If I had to remain in that position, I would never play it. Okay, so a lot of times we got to change. Once we change our thinking, our thought, we change our behavior. And this is what's happening now. They go into our women's thoughts, they going into our men's thoughts, and then our children's thoughts, and they controlling them. So don't give up on us, okay?
yeah.
If you're gonna be here, if you're gonna be here another 10 or 20 years, keep doing the good work. Keep doing the good work you're doing. Don't give up.
I'm not gonna stop. I'll die if I stop.
There, look
Oh, he broke that.
realize, do you realize that they wouldn't allow us to read, man? Come on, man. Mr. Mccray was at my house. Did you? Was my house loaded down with books? Yes.
Yes, sir.
So they wouldn't allow us to read. Yeah, they would. They allow. They now we can read. We can go. They would kill you if they caught you reading. But now you can read. But what we do now, we don't read now. We watch. I call it the idiot box. We watch the TV. We watch 6 hours. 6 to 7
Okay.
hours of TV a day. Okay, do do say do something positive, man. Do more praying. Spend more time with yourself, man. Realize that you're gonna die one day, and realize why were you here, and you're gonna die. And where you going after you die? Thank
The
you.
video games got these kids too.
Oh yeah.
Not only the kids, they got the women, they got all of us.
Fortnite and all that. Oh my God.
I agree with what Ralph was saying about doing what you can in their community. He spent 40 years doing it, and I spent 40 years. I realized that I can't touch everybody in my community, so I write books. I've written 10 books. This is
Beautiful.
one of them. This is one of them called The Hypocrisy of Democracy in America,
Yes.
because I don't believe that you can have a democracy in a capitalistic system and both of them thrive. But the main thing is, I felt that I had to write these books in a way where people not only understand it, but are entertained from it. Our youth are so about entertainment that you have to come at them at their level of entertainment. So if they could get entertained by something that makes sense, then they're getting the knowledge without even knowing they're getting the knowledge. And that's why I wrote these books, because I touch on a lot of things that they're doing out here, that we're doing out here, that don't make no sense. But if you don't think about it, you just do it anyway. So
Mm-hmm.
what I would say in terms of encouragement is that the youth today, and not just youth, but everyone today needs to decide, make a decision. Are you satisfied with the way things are or not? And if you are not satisfied with the way things are, then you have to make a plan to make a change, to make a difference.
Amen.
Ralph's plan was to coach him up. My
Right.
plan was to write him up. Everyone here has a special talent. Each and every one listening to this show has a special gift of
Mm-hmm.
God that
Yes.
they need to share with the world. But
Amen.
you won't do that if you sit around waiting for someone to do it for you.
Hmm.
You
Right.
have to decide. You have to decide. You have to look in the mirror. Ralph looked in the mirror and said, you know what? I'm going to start a Pop Warner team in Irvington. No one made him. He decided. I decided to write a book. You, Rob Mccray, you decided to have this network show. So
Right.
it's something that you have to decide to do. Like Michael Jackson said, look in the mirror. You have to look in the mirror and say, what am I going to do to positively affect the lives of our people in the future? And how can I most do it to effectuate the changes in the areas that need to be changed? Because the bottom line is, like Ms. Mohammed said, you're not going to be here forever. So you need to have a plan of what is it going to mean when they put that dash after your date of born and they put that number after the dash. What is
Right.
it going to mean?
Yep.
Is it going to mean anything at all? Some people will mean nothing at all. It'll be like they came and they left.
Right.
Gil Noble used to say, there's a lot of cream of wheat people. When you eat that cream of wheat, it just goes right in and comes right out. He said,
No substance.
no substance.
Right.
So you have to decide today or tomorrow morning, if you, I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to take my skills. I'm going to identify what my skill is. If I'm the best speaker, if I'm the best singer, if I'm the best whatever, I'm going to take that skill and enhance it to its highest peak, and then scream it to the world and say, world, here we come. You might have to join another group. You might have to join a group to help you, but at least do it. Don't just sit there and think someone's going to come along and do it for you. It's not happening. It's
That's
not
right.
happening.
That's right.
So it's been my pleasure, my honor, Mr. Mccray. I thank you for the opportunity. This has
Blessings to
really
you.
been nice, and
Yeah.
I'm scared of Mr. Muhammad. Don't put me
Yeah.
on there with him no more.
Hey, Craig.
We put you
You
on
know
the
what I'm
spot,
gonna do?
man. I
I'm
like to be on the spot.
I want to make one comment, Mr. Craig.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Whenever we come together as a people, we
Yes.
always should leave with a solution.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is what we come and express ourselves, but we don't never leave with a solution. And I'm gonna make a suggestion.
Come on.
The things
Oh,
that we need to have a meeting
Hold on.
with
Start over.
our youth.
Start over. Start over.
because you broke up.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna make a suggestion. Like I said, as we come together, we always leave with no solution. And one of the solutions I'd like us to do in the near future is let us have a meeting with our youth. Let
Okay.
us hear from them. Okay, how many meetings have we had with our youth? Okay, I don't know any of them. Okay, let's have a meeting with our youth, and then after we have a meeting with the youth, then let's go to our women. Okay, we need to hear from them. Okay, we need to hear from them and see what's on their subconscious mind. Okay, I give an example. A woman came home from work. She came from work, and her husband was watching the game, the Super Bowl.
Mm.
She said, "Dear, I need to speak to you." And he said, "Don't bother me right now. I'm watching the Super Bowl. I'm watching the Super Bowl." She said, "I need to speak to you." He said, what? I'm having a hard time on my job, and they're giving me a problem. He said, "Well, listen, do this and do that and do that. Okay, do that." So he went back to watching the game. She came back the next day. She said, "Dear, I need to speak to you." He said, "Well, wait, where you on? Where you on?" She said, "I'm having a hard time." He said, "You didn't listen to me? Don't bother me." To make a long story short, she wound up divorcing him. Okay. The point is, we men don't know how to listen to our women. Our women, every prophet and messenger came out of a woman, except for our father Adam. So our women is the womb for us. So they got against us, man, and we need to hear from them, okay? And then after we hear from them, then we hear from the men. Let's have those three separate meetings now. One for the youth, one
Okay.
from the women,
All
and
right.
one. And when we hear this meeting, all we're doing is listen. We writing down the problems that they have, and believe me, they got some problems that they want to express themselves. Okay.
All
All right.
right.
Thank
All right.
All right.
Speaking of women, I gotta go.
you.
Mr. Cole.
Mr. Muhammad, I'm gonna fact check some of the questions you asked us.
Good. Good.
All right, I'm gonna
I
fact
want,
check
every-
them.
I want
I,
everybody to do.
I
All
gotta
right.
get off this call.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, but
we done. We
it
done. We
was
done.
an honor to speak with you, Mr. Muhammad, and Mr.
Thank
Garner. You know, always with you. And Rob, thank you for setting this up. It's beautiful.
I thank
And
you. I thank all of you. Yeah, I
oh,
thank you for coming out and sharing your knowledge and your wisdom with us all. So we greatly appreciate all of you guys for coming out and putting this time into this. And it was definitely a learning experience for me. I hope for our listening audience as well. And if they request that we come back on and do something like this in the near future, then we'll put it together. So with
all
that being
right.
said, we are going to wrap things up for this evening. I once again want to thank you all for taking the time out to watch and listen to this message and discussion that we had this evening. So, on behalf of Mr. Garner, Mr. Steele, and Mr. Muhammad, my name is Rob Mccray from the Business Building Network. And I just want to give this shout out real quick that I have a weekly program every Thursday at 6 p.m., which is the come up is also simulcasted on Facebook and on YouTube as well. And it's just about inspiring other business owners to come out and talk about their prospective businesses. And we'll give you some strategies and suggestions to help you if you're looking to start your own business and how to promote and get your business in front of the target audience that you are looking for. So once
Okay.
again, I want to thank you guys all for watching, and we look forward to seeing you on the next go around. So have a wonderful night, and we will talk to you soon. Take care.
All right. Good evening.